Zach Goldsmith.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. And I have to start by apologising for having missed the opening speeches. I did indicate to the Speaker that that would be necessary, but I'm nevertheless sorry not to have heard the opening remarks from the Honourable Member for Mitcham and Morden, and I congratulate her on securing this vital debate. Also an honour and a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for a wonderful seat in London, whose name I've currently forgotten. That's right, Carl Shorten, thank you. All of his comments, in fact, are comments which I wholeheartedly endorse. I've been hugely fortunate over the time that I've been an MP, and I have to admit not much before I was elected in 2010, to see firsthand the incredible contribution made to this country by the Ahmadiyya community. We hear all the time, rightly, about the need for better, stronger integration of our diverse communities, and this is at the very heart of the values that run right the way through the Ahmadiyya community. And it angers me that that community has faced and continues to face so much persecution around the world. Their motto, which we've already heard a number of people repeat, love for all, hatred for none, which colleagues will remember was plastered across buses in 2011, paid for, in fact, by the Ahmadiyya community. And it shines out from absolutely everything the Ahmadiyya community does. And colleagues will also remember last year, following those appalling attacks just across the road from here, scenes of Muslim women from London's Ahmadiyya community holding hands in solidarity, in condemnation of the violence that we had seen. I want to highlight very briefly the 10-year partnership between the Royal British Legion and the Ahmadiyyan Muslim Youth Association, an extraordinary organisation which raised over £200,000 for the Poppy Appeal. The same organisation runs blood drives, elderly home visits, feeding the homeless, charity events, green initiatives, and all kinds of green initiatives, peace conferences, interfaith meetings, and so much more than that besides. Last year, like other members here, I had the tremendous honour of being invited to the Jalsa Salana, the annual convention of the Ahmadis, which saw around 35,000 people from all over the world coming together to hear the Ahmadiyya message of unity, understanding and mutual respect. And I left that event, as I know my honourable friends did, with a bounce in my step. I was inspired by the single-minded commitment of absolutely everyone there to peace, to harmony and to decency. And I feel very lucky that we have such a thriving Ahmadiyya community right here in this great city. But despite all this, despite their amazing contribution, wherever they are in the world, the Ahmadiyya community is one of the most persecuted groups of people on earth. And as members will be aware, Pakistan, a country with which I have great and deep familial links and a great love, is tragically at the heart of much of this persecution. Indeed, we heard only last night that a mob of 500 people reported to have attacked a 100-year-old mosque in Punjab. We don't yet know what the cost was in terms of human suffering. In that country, there exists deep structural and institutional prejudice against Ahmadis. And by defining in law that Ahmadis are not Muslims, Pakistan has justified decades of religious persecution against them and denied them anything resembling religious freedom. Those who've killed Ahmadis for their faith are often hailed as heroes. Ahmadi figures from Pakistani culture and history are simply deleted from the school curriculum. And the use of blasphemy laws, as the Honourable Member mentioned in his speech before mine, the use of those laws against Ahmadis can see them imprisoned or even put to death simply for expressing their beliefs. And if anyone is in any doubt, I would recommend that they read a copy of the 2016-2017 report by the Asian Human Rights Commission. It's called Ahmadis in Pakistan Face an Existential Threat. But it's not just Pakistan. In Algeria, Ahmadis have been detained and forced to worship in secret. In Indonesia, a country, by the way, with proud traditions of religious tolerance, government ministers have called for a ban on the Ahmadiyya Muslim faith altogether. But most depressingly, anti-Ahmadi persecution exists in the UK as well. Leaflets have been circulated outside mosques and in universities across the country, calling even for the murder of Ahmadis. And I've seen similar in my own constituency in Kingston a few years ago. And much of it is anonymous, but it's not always anonymous. Extremist clerics have called on fellow Muslims to sever all ties with the Ahmadi community. In 2010, the Imam of the Tooting Islamic Centre demanded a total boycott of Ahmadi-owned businesses, and an organisation called Mahkame Nabuwat, which has already been mentioned. In Pakistan, incidentally, the same organisation calls for the elimination of Ahmadis. It has offices here in the UK, and the organisation congratulated all Muslims after the murder in 2016 of Ahmadi shopkeeper Ahsan Shah, who was killed for being Ahmadi. And appallingly, that organisation has been an affiliate of the otherwise respected Muslim Council of Britain. I have to say that the MCB have since set up a panel to look at the group. But why on earth do you need a panel when that group has quite openly and brazenly celebrated the murder of people whose version of Islam that they don't like? I think even calling a panel to examine such a phenomenon is an insult. And to add to that insult, two of the members that they put on that panel have strong ties to the very group they're investigating. One of them gave a speech shortly before saying, I quote, having any sort of ties with them, Ahmadis, is far worse than being addicted to drugs and alcohol. I'm humbly requesting you, do not meet them or your faith will suffer from an incurable cancer. Leave this place with the promise that not only will you sever all ties with the Ahmadis, but also with anyone who sympathizes with them. Well, that includes, I guess, all of us in this chamber today. So this is not just an international problem, and I do think we need to be much, much tougher on those propagating anti-Ahmadi hatred in the UK. When leaflets are distributed advocating violence or boycotts against the Ahmadis, we all need to speak out as one, more strongly. And law enforcement needs to clamp down on it and pursue those making these threats and incitements in a much more robust manner than we have seen in recent years, as well, of course, as condemning the actions of governments overseas. The UK must use its considerable historical and cultural ties with Pakistan and other nations to call for an end to inhumane laws that criminalise innocent people simply for expressing their beliefs. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community has faced persecution and hate, not with violence, but with extraordinary dignity and extraordinary compassion. And I believe they deserve every single bit of support that we can provide here and abroad. Thank you.